HBO Max. I still call it HBO Max, by the way. Just wrapped up the new sensation, Creature Commandos. Okay, it's not a new sensation. I made that up, but people do like this show. If you go on Facebook, if you go on Twitter, if you listen to the words that James Gunn says, people like this show. He gets a good response from this show. This show is a mixed bag. Now, the show is great for adult animation. It is a step forward for adult animation. We've spoken about that a lot on this podcast. I'm Peter A. DeLuca. This is the Film Buff Podcast. And it's the weekend. So we talk cartoons on the weekend. Because, back in the day, you used to wake up and grab yourself some cereal, plop yourself down, and get mesmerized by weekend animation for the kids. Creature Commandos is everything but for the kids. What is it really? There's a lot to digest with this entire show. Not just the storylines, everything around it. Doing a podcast, doing a little bit of an episode on Creature Commandos requires a lot. Even now, as I'm speaking to you, I'm looking at a lot of notes for me, and I can go in a couple different directions. So I'm going to do my best. So hang out with me. It's Animation Saturday. Let's go.
Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production. Take one.
Action!
That intro there, AKAPADers, could have been the entire episode. I was already gearing up. But hey, welcome back to it. Peter A. DeLuca here. This is the movie podcast. This is the source of movie criticism. I've spent a lot of time the last month just scrolling through everything on Apple, scrolling through everything I could on Spotify to find who out there, and TikTok too. TikTok is a major source of film criticism. But I was like kind of lonely. I'm looking for contemporaries. I'm looking for people who kind of say some of the same things. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Am I alone in what we do here? Let me get some of this morning coffee. We're drinking black coffee today, my AKAPADers. Troll Court Entertainment, that's James Gunn's production company, now behind the successful Peacemaker series, now behind the successful Creature Commandos series. Season 1, banger, got renewed for season 2. Maybe like 4 of the 7 episodes deep. It got renewed, so it's a nice timely announcement. Now also, keep in mind, James Gunn is a CEO of DC. He's essentially a studio head, but he's the DCU, as they call it, the DC universe. He's one of the guys that run it. They make all the daily decisions. So, I don't know. Troll Court Entertainment is his production company. Why wouldn't he renew it? It's his own freaking production company. So, some of the detractors for this series, the 2 big points, I'll say. But we're going to get to some of the real points. And before we do that, let me just say it. For adult animation, this is a giant step forward. We had Twilight of the Gods from James Gunn's, I guess, like contemporary Zack Snyder, but Zack Snyder to me is leaps and bounds above James Gunn. Just in what he can do with the camera. But we had Twilight of the Gods on Netflix. Giant step forward for adult animation. Creature Commandos is, if one's the left foot, Creature Commandos is the right foot. We're talking violence. We're talking real adult themes. We're talking about adult shock, and we're talking about sex. That's how we classify adult animation. I don't know if we're getting it from Japan now. It's insane. A lot of what we do on this podcast is we try and get those crevices. We try and get those veins. One of those veins that we tapped earlier in 2024 was the mid-2000s. Warner Brothers, Walt Disney, DreamWorks, they all attempted to get that young male teenage audience with movies like Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Titan AE, even Anastasia, trying to get a little bit more adult. I didn't put Anastasia in that original grouping, but the work of Don Bluth, he was trying to spread his wings. For the Americans, right? It's their counterparts in Japan were doing Vampire Hunter D, for example, Ninja Scroll, The Guyver. So here in the States, right, the country of industry, the US of A, we had a guy named Ralph Bakshi. Now, soon we'll be doing Wizards, the movie I discovered when I was a little kid that blew me away, that he made. He directed it. His fingerprints are all over it. But we do have the work of Ralph Bakshi as adult animation here in the US. And we kind of go from Bakshi to like Todd McFarlane's Spawn on HBO. And then we go from Todd McFarlane's Spawn on HBO maybe to where we're at now. I think some of these DC Universe movies that we got, like the DC animation, for example, and we have a very close, a very one-to-one, but not quite there adaptation of Watchmen, Chapter 1, Chapter 2. They've done like a 6-7 hour adaptation of Crisis of Infinity Earths. They've done 3 hours of Batman Long Halloween and Dark Knight Returns. So there's meat on the bone when it comes to the appetite for this stuff. Creature Commandos does set up a different era now. Between Creature Commandos and Twilight of the Gods, it sets up a different era. It just means we can go hardcore. We can go all the way. One of my true issues with this is we're beginning a superhero universe that's mostly considered a cinematic universe, meaning live action. Creature Commandos does not set that up well. Creature Commandos, also through the devices of James Gunn, because he is a consummate storyteller, obsessive storyteller, I would say. When we had the Peacemaker series, he basically disbanded and got rid of, between Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad movie, he got rid of the Suicide Squad. So right now in the DC universe, there's no Suicide Squad. There's Amanda Waller runs Creature Commandos. She doesn't run Suicide Squad. All of this is major stuff, because if we were watching this as a Suicide Squad movie, or a Suicide Squad series, I'll say, sorry. I apologize. Forgive me. It would be amazing. It would be perfect. The way how these characters act, the way that they're written, their tragic backstories, which is very well told by James Gunn. It would be heightened knowing that these characters are somewhat proactive in their own fate of eventually enjoying the mission on the Suicide Squad. That's always like what the hook of the Suicide Squad is. It's they're forced to do something, but then they eventually like it because they're crazy. Maybe we'll get some of that in Thunderbolts. So those, in my opinion, are two major strikes. The overall storyline with the princess and the country that they go to and blah 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 blah, it's okay. It's more of a device to give us a reason to do individual character drop episodes, origin episodes, essentially, where we see how tragic these characters are and we're sad when things happen to them. We have Frankenstein, who his whole thing, we'll call it, his love affair with the bride, is somewhat odd doesn't quite fit, has no resolution. We're supposed to be excited to see more of that in season 2. Flag Senior, voiced by Frank Grillo, who maybe isn't a good voice actor, I'll say. To me, he doesn't have quite. He has more of a screen presence than voice. He's left. He's a hanging chad. He's just left on a hospital bed. But we get a highlight of just DC characters we normally maybe would never care about, see, or think about, and all of these other things with the show. And I believe that was the flex of James Gunn. But it's also not big enough of a revelation of these characters. Meaning, like when we saw Batista as Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy, or Rocket Raccoon, we loved those characters so much. We wanted to know more. We wanted to experience more. We wanted to buy merchandise. Now, given one's live action, one's animation, you can't quite do the same stuff. I get it. But at the same time, there was a mystical, magical element to what made popping the Guardians of the Galaxy work. Meaning, we're going to do stuff with these characters, and we're going to humanize them. And it worked. But you can't humanize every single character. You can in the context and the quality of the narrative and story, in the character structure, if you will. You can do that there. But have it reaching into kind of like the marrow or the cells of the audience. I don't know. I don't think every character is capable of doing that, even when they're handled well. And this is something we're seeing with Creature Commandos. This is the real criticism for Creature Commandos. With all the progress it has made for adult animation here in America, Creature Commandos is a bunch of characters you kind of can walk away from. That's the big issue. Do I recommend this series? Yes. Do I want to see more? Yes. In my opinion, is this a good start to the DCU? Yes. Do I feel like this is what the broader general audience needed? No. Because you have to help the broad audience. We need to see some Wonder Woman. And that's it. AKAPAD. Rock and roll.
Okay, that's a wrap.